Here is the latest news we update on the Russian military situation. President Putin challenges the West and Ukraine to a missile duel. The fierce battle for control over islands on the Dnipro River has been a prominent highlight, which will be detailed in today's international news segment. Here are the full details. During the year-end press conference in 2024, Russian President Vladimir Putin proposed a one-on-one missile duel with the United States to demonstrate that Russia's new hypersonic ballistic missile, Orishnik, can defeat any Western missile defense system. There is currently no way to intercept these missiles. If any Western experts claim otherwise, we propose that the West and the people funding these analyses conduct some technological experiments, a 21st century high-tech duel. Let them designate a target, say KF, and deploy all their air defense and missile defense systems there. We will then attack this target using Orishnik to see what happens. We are ready for such an experiment, Putin said. He also explained that Orishnik represents modern weaponry built on the foundation of earlier Russian missile designs. Russia first launched Orishnik missiles at the Ukrainian city of Pro on November 21, 2024. An action Putin framed as a response to Ukraine's initial use of US-supplied ATACMS ballistic missiles and British Storm Shadow missiles against Russian territory. With Western authorization, Russian and Ukrainian forces are fighting for control of the islands of KZ and K located at the mouth of the Dnipro River, where it empties into the Black Sea. This operation has strategic significance because controlling these islands would allow Russia to dominate access to the river, a critical location in Ukraine. The Dnipro River has played a pivotal role in the conflict. In the early stages of the military campaign, Russian forces captured the strategic city of Kherson at the river's mouth in March 2022. By November, Ukraine regained Kherson after Russian forces withdrew to the river's eastern bank. Several bridges crossing the river were destroyed. Ukrainian forces attempted to establish a bridgehead in Russian-controlled areas but suffered heavy losses and ultimately abandoned the effort. Currently, in the Kherson region, Russia controls the eastern bank of the river, while Ukraine holds the western bank. Russia's 61st Marine Brigade has conducted several amphibious operations to seize the islands. If Russia gains control of these islands, they could deploy artillery to dominate access to the river, support bridge-building operations, and enable forces to cross the river in an attempt to recapture the city of Kherson. However, the islands are within range of Ukrainian artillery, and Ukraine's 126th Territorial Defense Brigade is actively resisting Russian attacks. Deploying boats and bridge-building equipment has become a decisive factor in many skirmishes between Russian and Ukrainian forces. Control over the islands in the Dnipro River will likely hinge on this critical element. Both sides require small boats for rapid assaults and landings. The Russian military has assembled a fleet of 300 vessels, primarily rigid-hull inflatable boats, RHIBs, to transport troops to the islands for swift strikes. Meanwhile, Ukraine has bolstered its naval capacity through international aid packages. In November, Australia announced the donation of 14 RHIBs to Ukraine. Earlier this year, the Netherlands supplied 14 RHIBs, 8 river patrol boats, and CB-90 assault craft. U.S. aid packages to Ukraine have also included over 100 coastal and river patrol boats. Other countries, including Sweden, Finland, Estonia, and Denmark, have provided ships equipped with modern weaponry similar to Russian systems. In a press briefing, General Valery Gerasimov, chief of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, stated that the goal of completely driving Ukrainian forces out of Kherson is not a task that Russian forces can accomplish by the end of this year. His remarks raise questions about Russia's current priorities in the conflict with Ukraine. Earlier statements from President Putin had framed the recapture of Kherson as a top priority for Moscow. However, given the current situation and Gerasimov's comments, observers are reassessing Russia's primary objectives, including the significance of the Donbas region in eastern Ukraine and Moscow's long-term goals. After Ukraine entered Kherson, President Putin stated that the main task of the Ministry of Defense was to eliminate and push Ukrainian forces out of Russian territory. He set a deadline of October 1 for withdrawing Ukrainian troops, which has since led to escalated fighting, with thousands of third-party forces deployed to the front lines. According to ABC Russia, Western support remains critical for Ukraine, particularly military aid from the US and NATO allies. However, concerns about potential reductions in aid could impact Ukraine's ability to sustain its military efforts. This dependency underscores the urgency for Ukraine to strengthen its domestic defense industry. Future outlook. As both sides continue to innovate and adapt, the conflict's trajectory remains uncertain. The increasing reliance on advanced technologies, including AI and drones, marks a shift in modern warfare. Meanwhile, the geopolitical ramifications of the conflict extend beyond the battlefield, affecting global security dynamics and economic stability. This summary condenses the detailed developments into a more accessible format while preserving the core narrative and strategic insights. 539. President Putin emphasized the urgency of repelling Ukrainian forces from Kherson in November, highlighting the importance of immediately cleansing the territory of Ukrainian forces. According to Newsweek, as of now, Russian forces have regained control of 40% of the territory previously occupied by Ukraine in Kherson province. However, according to some sources, Russian forces have also suffered significant losses in both personnel and equipment during this conflict, with the peak occurring in November. Meanwhile, on the ground, on December 17, Ukrainian Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky stated that Russia had launched intensified counter-offensive operations in Kherson province over 3 consecutive days, deploying additional third-party military units. Over 10,000 troops from these units have been deployed to support Russia's efforts to push back Ukrainian forces in Kherson. According to Syrsky, third-party military units in Kherson have also begun to suffer losses. However, despite Russia's losses, Ukrainian forces in Kherson appear to be increasingly weakened due to Russia's manpower and equipment advantages. This comes as Ukrainian forces face challenges on both the Eastern Front and in Kherson. On December 18, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called on allies and partners to urgently provide additional aid to Ukraine. Recently, according to Reuters, Ukraine denied Russia's accusations that Ukrainian drones had repeatedly dropped white phosphorus in September 2024. Ukraine dismissed these allegations as false and meaningless, affirming its full compliance with international arms control obligations. In a statement to Reuters, a spokesperson for Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs wrote that Ukraine firmly believes Moscow is attempting to deflect blame for its own actions and mislead international public opinion by making such false accusations. Earlier, on December 18, Russia officially accused Ukrainian forces of repeatedly using white phosphorus munitions in September 2024 to manufacture ammunition dropped from drones. On October 9, Russia's permanent representative to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, Vladimir Sarin, announced that Moscow had submitted investigation results concerning Ukraine's alleged use of chemical weapons to the OPCW. He called for this information to be taken as seriously as possible. Sarin stated that Moscow provided investigation results based on chemical analysis conducted in laboratories under the Russian Ministry of Defense, which are accredited by the OPCW. These results were prepared in strict compliance with the organization's requirements and submitted to the Technical Secretariat for dissemination to member states ahead of the 107th session of the OPCW Executive Council. According to OPCW data, Russia submitted documents on Ukraine's alleged use of chemical weapons for distribution to member states on October 10. Later, on October 10, Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, commander of Russia's radiation, chemical, and biological defense troops, claimed that the Russian military had revealed the truth about Ukraine's secret use of chemical weapons disguised as ammunition in Kherson province in August 2024.